The heavens shimmered with divine light as ODUDUWA, the chosen prince of the gods, received his sacred mission. The supreme deity had decreed that he would descend to the formless, watery expanse below and shape it into a land where mortals and spirits could thrive. Clutching the sacred chain of descent, a handful of soil and a celestial cock, ODUDUWA took his first step beyond the divine realm. The golden chain unfurled beneath his feet, linking the ethereal heavens to the formless void beneath. As he descended, the celestial winds whispered prophecies of greatness, warning him of the trials that lay ahead. ODUDUWA's feet finally met the endless sea, its waves stretching infinitely in all directions. With faith in his mission, he sprinkled the divine soil upon the waters, watching as the grains dispersed and solidified into land. He then released the celestial cock, which flapped its radiant wings and began scratching at the soil, spreading it far and wide. Hills rose, valleys deepened, and rivers began carving their way through the newborn earth. ODUDUWA named this land Ile-Ife, the sacred origin of what would become the greatest kingdom of the Yoruba people. But even as he marveled at his creation, unseen eyes watched from the shadows, harboring jealousy and resentment. The struggle for dominion had only just begun. Far above, in the celestial realm, Obatala, the sculptor of human forms, gazed down in dismay. He had long wished to be the one chosen to shape the world, but fate had bestowed the task upon ODUDUWA. Anger and jealousy simmered in his divine heart, and he resolved to challenge his brother's claim. Obatala was known for his wisdom, but envy clouded his judgment. He descended toward Ile-Ife, determined to assert his right as the true creator of the earth. ODUDUWA sensed the disturbance before he saw his brother arrive. The skies darkened momentarily as Obatala's presence descended upon the land. The meeting of the two deities was charged with unspoken tension, their gazes locked in an unyielding contest of wills. "This land should have been mine to shape," Obatala declared, his voice carrying the weight of divine authority. "The supreme deity intended me to forge the world, but you have stolen my birthright." ODUDUWA met his gaze without faltering. "The task was given to me, and I have fulfilled it as commanded. If you wish to contest this, let the gods themselves bear witness to our deeds." The tension between them crackled like lightning in a storm, the first sign of a conflict that would shake the heavens and the earth alike. Determined to prove his supremacy, Obatala challenged ODUDUWA to a contest of creation. "If you truly are the rightful ruler of Ile-Ife, let us both shape life from the clay of this land. The gods shall judge whose creations are superior." ODUDUWA, confident in his destiny, accepted the challenge. He watched as Obatala gathered the rich, dark earth and began sculpting the first human forms. However, unknown to him, Obatala had indulged in sacred palm wine before descending, clouding his mind. His hands, unsteady with divine intoxication, shaped beings that were misshapen and imperfect. He breathed life into them, and they became the first of the deformed children of the world. ODUDUWA, sober and focused, knelt by the river and shaped his own figures with precision and care. He infused them with divine essence, and they rose in perfect symmetry, strong and beautiful. The gods bore witness, and the supreme deity decreed that ODUDUWA's creations would become the true ancestors of the Yoruba people. Obatala, humbled by his own folly, withdrew in shame, vowing to redeem himself by becoming the patron of those he had mistakenly deformed. But though the contest was settled, the wounds of pride and jealousy did not fade so easily. In the celestial realms, whispers of discontent stirred among the other deities. ODUDUWA's victory had secured his rule over Ile-Ife, but it had also sown the seeds of future strife. For not all were willing to accept his dominion so readily. News of ODUDUWA's triumph spread across the divine and mortal realms, reaching the ears of powerful spirits and gods who had long harbored their own ambitions. Some, like Orunmila, the wise oracle, saw in ODUDUWA the makings of a great leader and ally. Others, like Sengo, the fiery god of thunder, viewed his growing power with suspicion. Deep within the unseen realms, an ancient force stirred. Olokun, the mighty god of the sea, who had once ruled over the boundless waters before Oduduwa's land had risen. His fury was boundless. "Who dares claim dominion over what was once mine?" he roared, his voice causing the ocean waves to rise in anger. As Oduduwa worked to build the foundations of his kingdom, he remained unaware that the sea god had set his gaze upon Ile-Ife. The struggle for dominion was far from over. It had merely begun. From the depths of his vast underwater palace, Olokun summoned his most fearsome water spirits. His voice boomed through the watery abyss, commanding them to rise and reclaim the land that had once belonged to the sea. The waves roared in response, crashing violently upon the shores of Ile-Ife, swallowing fields and washing away early settlements. Oduduwa, upon seeing the destruction, understood that a great war was upon him. He climbed the highest peak of Ile-Ife and called upon Orunmila, the wise seer, for guidance. "The sea god's fury is vast and unrelenting," Orunmila warned. "To stand against him, you must seek aid from the gods of the skies and the earth. Only with their blessings can you hope to preserve what you have built." With determination, Oduduwa set forth on a sacred pilgrimage, seeking the support of other deities to combat Olokun's wrath. His journey would take him across lands unknown, to the sacred groves of Oya, the tempestuous goddess of storms, and into the deep forests where Ogun, the god of war and iron, awaited. The battle for Ile-Ife had begun, and only the favor of the gods could determine its outcome. Oduduwa wasted no time. He knew that to withstand Olokun's wrath, he needed allies among the gods of the skies and the earth. With his trusted warriors and priests, he set forth on a journey across the sacred lands, seeking the favor of the deities, who could aid him in his battle against the sea god. His first destination was the tempestuous realm of Oya, the goddess of winds and storms. Her dominion stretched across the skies, and her power could rival even Olokun's raging waters. Oduduwa arrived at the sacred groves, where Oya danced amidst whirlwinds, her presence electrifying the air. "Great Oya, goddess of storms," Oduduwa called out, bowing before her, "I seek your aid against Olokun, who threatens the land I have created." Oya's eyes flashed like lightning. "Olokun's fury is mighty, but he is not invincible," she declared. "I shall lend you my winds, for his waves cannot rise against my storms. But in return, I ask that the children of Ile-Ife honor me with offerings and worship, that my name may never be forgotten." Oduduwa swore an oath, and with that Oya's tempestuous blessings were his. With Oya's promise secured, Oduduwa continued his quest, venturing deep into the ironclad forests of Ogun, the god of war in the forge. He found Ogun shaping weapons in his mighty forge, his hammer echoing through the land like thunder. "Ogun, warrior of the gods, I come seeking your strength," Oduduwa announced. "Olokun rises against me, seeking to reclaim the world I have shaped. Will you stand by my side in battle?" Ogun looked upon Oduduwa with the eyes of a warlord measuring his foe. "I fight only for those who prove their worth," he growled. "If you are to have my aid, then you must endure my trials." Oduduwa did not falter. He entered Ogun's proving grounds, where blazing fires tested his endurance, and battle-hardened warriors challenged his might. He emerged victorious, earning Ogun's respect. "You are worthy," Ogun declared, handing him a sword forged from divine iron. "Take this, and with it my warriors shall stand with you." With Oya's storms and Ogun's warriors, Oduduwa was prepared to face Olokun's wrath. But unknown to him, the sea god had already begun his next assault, summoning a tide unlike any before. As Oduduwa returned to Ile-Ife, the skies darkened with an unnatural storm, and the sea roared with Olokun's anger. Towering waves crashed upon the land, threatening to submerge everything Oduduwa had built. His warriors stood ready, their weapons gleaming with Ogun's blessings, while the winds of Oya howled in defiance against the sea. The battle began with Olokun's forces, massive sea creatures and spirits of the deep, surging forward to consume Ile-Ife. But Oya's tempests rose, pushing back the waves, while Ogun's warriors met the enemy with unmatched ferocity. Thunder and lightning clashed as divine forces collided. At the heart of the battle, Oduduwa stood firm, wielding Ogun's sword and chanting sacred incantations. He called upon the supreme deity, who sent forth divine light to split the seas. With a mighty strike, ODUDUWA drove Olukun's forces back, sealing their defeat. The battle ended with the sea retreating, but the scars of war remained. Olokun, though vanquished, vowed vengeance, retreating into the depths to plot once more. ODUDUWA had secured his rule over Ile-Ife, but he knew that his struggles were far from over. With peace restored, ODUDUWA turned his attention to strengthening Ile-Ife. He called upon the wisdom of Orunmila to establish laws and traditions. He divided the land among his trusted chiefs, ensuring order and prosperity. Temples were built in honor of the gods who had aided him, and the people flourished under his rule. Yet even as Ile-Ife thrived, new challenges loomed on the horizon. Rival deities and ambitious mortals sought to test ODUDUWA's rule. The struggle for Ile-Ife was not yet over, and ODUDUWA would need all his wisdom and strength to ensure the kingdom's survival. Even with Olukun's retreat, ODUDUWA knew that threats against Ile-Ife would never cease. He sought to solidify his rule not just among mortals, but among the gods themselves. To this end, he called for a grand council of the deities, inviting all who held power over the land, the skies, and the underworld. In the sacred grove of the gods, Orunmila, the seer of destinies, sat at the center, his eyes glowing with divine wisdom. To his right sat Ogun, still clad in his battle-worn armor, and to his left Oya, her presence stirring the winds around them. From the underworld, Isu, the trickster and messenger of the gods, arrived with his enigmatic smile, while Sango, the god of thunder, watched with cautious interest. Brothers and sisters, ODUDUWA began, Ile-Ife stands as the land of creation, but our unity must be established for it to endure. We must set forth laws that bind the divine and mortal realms together. Orunmila nodded. Balance must be maintained or chaos will reign once more. But not all gods welcomed ODUDUWA's words. Sango rose, his voice like distant thunder. You ask us to recognize your dominion over this land. But who among us agreed to this? His challenge sent ripples through the gathering, and murmurs of dissent arose. ODUDUWA realized that while he had bested Olokun, he had yet to win the hearts of all the gods. Sango was not one to let matters be decided by words alone. If you wish to claim Ile-Ife as yours, prove your strength, he declared. Face me in a trial of power, and let the gods bear witness to who is truly worthy. ODUDUWA, though wise, knew that rejecting Sango's challenge would weaken his claim. Very well, he said. Let the trial commence. A great arena was formed in the sacred grove, where the gods gathered to witness the contest. Sango stood with his double-headed axe, his body crackling with electricity, while ODUDUWA prepared himself with the wisdom and power bestowed upon him by the supreme deity. With a roar, Sango struck first, calling forth thunderbolts that scorched the earth. But ODUDUWA was swift, weaving through the storm with agility granted by Oya's winds. He countered with divine light, pushing back Sango's attack. But the thunder god would not yield so easily. Their battle raged, neither willing to submit until Orunmila stepped forth. Enough, the wise seer commanded. This contest is not one of destruction. The land needs both strength and wisdom. Recognizing the truth in Orunmila's words, Sango relented. You have proven yourself, ODUDUWA, he admitted. I shall not challenge your rule, but know this, the gods do not bow easily. Lead well, or we will rise against you. With Sango's reluctant acknowledgement, ODUDUWA secured his position. But even as he gained allies, he knew that the greatest trials were yet to come. As Ile-Ife flourished, its riches grew, and with wealth came envy. Oje, the goddess of commerce and wealth, watched with keen interest. She had long sought dominion over the world's prosperity, and ODUDUWA's growing kingdom threatened her influence. Disguised as a mortal trader, Oje entered Ile-Ife, weaving whispers of greed and ambition among the people. Why should one man rule all? She murmured in the ears of chieftains. Wealth is meant to be shared, not hoarded under a single king. Slowly, dissent took root. Chiefs who had once pledged loyalty to ODUDUWA began to question his rule. and traders sought to control the markets without his guidance. Age's influence spread like wildfire, threatening to unravel all that ODUDUWA had built. Realizing the danger, ODUDUWA sought Orunmila's counsel. Uje does not fight with weapons, but with desire, the seer warned. To combat her, you must remind the people of their unity, lest they tear Ile-Ife apart with their own hands. ODUDUWA gathered the chiefs and the people of Ile-Ife, speaking not of power, but of destiny. We are one, he declared. Divided we fall to greed and envy, but together we shall build a kingdom that will last for generations. His words struck deep, breaking Aje's hold on the hearts of the people. Furious, the goddess withdrew, vowing that ODUDUWA had not seen the last of her schemes. Yet even as one threat was defeated, another loomed beyond the horizon. Unknown to ODUDUWA, forces from distant lands had begun to take notice of Ile-Ife's growing might. And soon, war would come not from the gods, but from men. As Ile-Ife prospered, word of its wealth and divine favor spread beyond its borders. Across distant lands, warlords and kings grew envious, eager to test their strength against the kingdom blessed by the gods. Among them was Obatala, a powerful chieftain who had long harbored resentment toward ODUDUWA. Obatala, once a close ally of the gods, had been cast aside in favor of ODUDUWA. He believed himself the rightful ruler of Ile-Ife, claiming that ODUDUWA had usurped his place. Gathering a vast army of warriors, he set his sights on the sacred city, vowing to reclaim what he saw as his birthright. As news of the advancing army reached Ile-Ife, ODUDUWA convened his council of chiefs and warriors. We have fought gods and storms, he declared. Now we must defend our land against men who seek to claim what is not theirs. Ogun, god of war, stepped forward. Let them come, he said with a fearsome grin. We shall forge our weapons in their defeat. The warriors of Ile-Ife sharpened their swords, reinforced their city walls, and prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of their kingdom. Obatala's army arrived like a storm, surrounding Ile-Ife with warriors as numerous as the stars. Their war drums echoed through the land, a challenge to ODUDUWA and his people. The battle began with fierce clashes at the gates of the city. Obatala's forces, skilled and relentless, pushed forward with siege weapons and flaming arrows. But the defenders of Ile-Ife fought with the strength of gods, wielding Ogun's weapons and chanting Orunmila's blessings for protection. Oya, watching from the heavens, sent winds to disrupt the enemy's formations, while Isu sowed confusion in their ranks, turning allies against one another. Still, Obatala pressed on, his warriors driven by his unwavering belief that he was destined to rule. The siege raged for days, neither side relenting. ODUDUWA knew that brute force alone would not decide the battle. He needed a plan to end the conflict once and for all. Realizing that endless bloodshed would only weaken both sides, ODUDUWA called for a duel. Obatala, he proclaimed, standing atop the city walls. If you claim to be the rightful ruler, then face me in single combat. Let the gods decide who shall rule Ile-Ife. Obatala, proud and certain of his own strength, accepted the challenge. The two warriors met at dawn on the sacred grounds outside the city, their armies watching in silence. The duel was fierce, both men wielding divine might. ODUDUWA fought with the wisdom of Orunmila and the strength of Ogun, while Obatala moved with the grace of a warrior blessed by the gods. Their weapons clashed like thunder, sending sparks flying into the morning sky. But ODUDUWA had one advantage. He fought not for himself, but for the people of Ile-Ife. Summoning all his strength, he struck Obatala down, disarming him in a final blow. Defeated but alive, Obatala fell to his knees. The gods have spoken, he admitted. I have fought for my pride, but you have fought for your people. Ile-Ife is yours. With that, the war ended. Obatala's warriors laid down their arms, and peace returned to the land. Yet ODUDUWA knew that as long as Ile-Ife stood as a beacon of power and divinity, there would always be new challenges ahead. With the battle settled and Obatala's forces dispersed, Ile-Ife turned its attention to healing. The wounded were tended to, homes rebuilt, and sacrifices made in gratitude to the gods. ODUDUWA, though victorious, felt the weight of his responsibilities more than ever. He understood that ruling a kingdom was not just about winning battles, but securing lasting peace. Obatala, though defeated, was not cast out. Instead, Oduduwa honored him, granting him a sacred place among the elders of Ile-Ife. "You are my brother in divinity," Oduduwa said. "Let us build together rather than destroy." Obatala, moved by Oduduwa's wisdom, accepted and vowed to serve as a protector of the land. Yet even as peace settled over the city, whispers of new challenges reached Oduduwa's ears. Messengers from distant lands spoke of other rulers who now saw Ile-Ife's strength as a threat. Far to the north, beyond the forests and rivers, there were powerful kings who ruled vast lands. Upon hearing of Oduduwa's victories, they saw Ile-Ife as a rising force that could either be an ally or a dangerous rival. One such king, Alafin of Oyo, sent emissaries bearing gifts of gold and kola nuts. "Great Oduduwa," the messengers proclaimed, "the Alafin wishes to speak of peace and trade between our lands." Oduduwa, ever wise, welcomed the envoys and prepared to meet the northern rulers. However, Orunmila warned him, "Not all who offer peace do so with honest hearts. Beware of those who seek to shake your hand while sharpening their blades." As Oduduwa journeyed to meet the northern kings, he remained vigilant, knowing that diplomacy could be as treacherous as war. The gathering of rulers was a spectacle unlike any Ile-Ife had ever seen. Kings adorned in rich garments, their crowns glistening, sat in a grand hall as warriors stood by their sides. The Alafin of Oyo, the most powerful among them, spoke first. "We come not to fight, but to understand your intentions, Oduduwa," he said. "You have built a great kingdom, but does your ambition end here?" Oduduwa met the Alafin's gaze. "I seek only to establish harmony among our people. Ile-Ife is not a kingdom of conquest, but of destiny." Some kings nodded in approval, but others remained skeptical. One ruler, the fierce Oba of Nupe, challenged Oduduwa. "And if we do not yield to your harmony?" he sneered. "Will you bring your gods upon us as you did with Olokun?" Oduduwa did not rise to the provocation. Instead, he spoke with wisdom, detailing his vision for a land where trade and culture flourished over war. But he knew that words alone would not be enough to convince them all. As the meeting progressed, the Alafin proposed a test. "Let the gods decide Oduduwa's wisdom. If he can solve 3 riddles posed by us, we shall accept his vision. If he fails, we shall decide the fate of Ile-Ife as we see fit." Oduduwa agreed, and the first riddle was posed by the Oba of Nupe. "What is the strongest force in the world?" Oduduwa smiled. "It is not the sword or the storm, but time. For time erodes mountains, turns rulers to dust, and yet gives birth to new empires." The kings murmured in agreement. The second riddle was asked by another ruler. "What is the greatest wealth a man can possess?" Oduduwa replied, "Wisdom. For gold can be stolen, land can be lost, but wisdom guides a man through all trials." Finally, the Alafin asked the last riddle. "What cannot be seen yet shapes all destinies?" Oduduwa answered, "The will of the gods. Though unseen, it is felt in every breath of wind and every drop of rain." The kings were impressed. The Alafin rose and declared, "Oduduwa, you are truly blessed with wisdom. We shall honor this alliance and recognize Ile-Ife as a great kingdom." With the alliance secured, Ile-Ife entered a golden age. Trade flourished and the people prospered. Scholars, warriors, and priests traveled from distant lands to witness the greatness of Oduduwa's city. Yet Oduduwa knew that peace was never eternal. Even as he strengthened his kingdom, forces beyond his control stirred in the shadows. The gods, ever watchful, whispered of a coming storm that would test Ile-Ife's very foundations.